It's another tech day today. This is an old one I've had sitting under my bench for a while. A Tektronix 2445. What's that, a 150 megahertz oscilloscope? Got it for 2,200 yen. That's about 25 bucks or so. Not too bad. In as is condition. In Japan they often sell stuff as junk, a junk item. It doesn't mean it's trash or rubbish. It just means it's untested. What you buy is what you get, and no returns, no refunds. It's just, you take your luck. So if you ever see things like on Yahoo auctions, which is like kind of like the eBay of Japan, or in a store, it says a junk item. It could be perfectly fine. I have purchased things that were perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with them. Like my Advantest TR6142 DC current voltage generator. That was perfectly fine. It was sold as junk just because they couldn't test it, so there's no guarantees. That's basically what it means here in Japan. So this was sold as that as well, and it does have some problems. You can see on the front here, someone's had a bit of a go at it before and haven't put it back together properly. So there might be something wrong. I did briefly power it up, and this knob is missing, and it seems like that pot might not be working. They might have taken a hit, and the intensity doesn't change. Also on the back, you might be able to hear that. There's something rattling around inside. But on the back, we've got the rear feet slash cord holders are missing. They've been ripped off. But I do have some new ones, so that's fine. Got these from Q Service online. I think they're in Greece or somewhere over there. These aren't sponsored. I just paid for them myself, and they came fine. So that was all good and happy. So I'm happy with their service. And yeah, so let's open this thing up straight away and see what's going on, because I want to know what's rattling around inside. The fan sounds pretty bad, so that's probably going to be a first thing to take a look at, because we don't want to run this thing too long without the fan, otherwise all the custom chips will go pop. So I'll get the back off, and we'll see what's inside. Okay, so I found two things. One, that's come off the fan blade. So that might be just a matter of putting it on. Looks like it's got a collar there, and it just slips on to there like that. So I might better just fix that. I'll check the motor. It looks like it's one of those fancy Tektronix custom jobbies, not a normal computer style fan. Actually, I'll take that little, see, it's like a collet, like on a drill or something, as it tightens up. It squishes down onto the shaft there. So I'm not going to put that aside because I don't want to break that. And it looks like the other rattly thing was that. You know what that is? That's the reason our focus wasn't working. That's the back end of the pot, which is right here. So that's taken a smack. Yeah, that's what's happened. You can see there. If I push that in, hang on, I'll zoom in. Focus. Okay, so that's taken a hit. Pop, and see the back there? And that's punched the back end of that out. But at least that has got like a little 3-pin connector. So that should be relatively simple to replace. If I can find an equivalent pot to go there, that looks like it says 5K on the side, so I just need a 5K pot of some description to go there. And a knob, if I can find a knob. These knobs are a little bit rare because they often go missing. So I'll have to figure something out there. Maybe I might have something spare in my stock of parts. I'm not going to be able to glue that. I might be able to glue that back together, actually. I might be able to glue that back together if I'm stuck of finding a replacement pot. But we'll see what happens when we come to that. So they're all the hybrids. Well, not hybrids. Custom chips. I guess they might be hybrids. You can see all the custom chips there underneath these heat sinks. All the way around. And this one here. This one is the one that often has problems overheating. Depending on, there's 2 generations of this chip. There was was it Motorola or someone made a chip, and then there was a Tektronix branded one. This one, happily, is branded Tektronix, which apparently is the more reliable version. It's the vertical control chip or something. I can't remember exactly off the top of my head. But yeah, these are the reason you don't want to run this without a fan for very long at all, because if these all overheat, and if this one overheats, yeah, you've basically written off the unit unless you can find a cheap set of chips. So on the side, I've still got little bits falling out from that from the rear feet. So on the side there, I'm actually upside down. Let's turn it around. Looks like we've got no batteries there. On some of the 2465, 2467s, they got batteries on this main processor board which need to be replaced. But this one doesn't seem to have that. We got 2 ROM chips there. I might check, see if they if I can update those. I do have an EEPROM programmer, so I can possibly update those if there is something, a newer firmware. I guess that is going to be maybe our main CPU kind of processor chip. Not much else. Got a pot there for some description. A few electrolytics. I think most of that's going to be alright just to leave as it is. Oh, I found something slightly interesting. I like this. If I just zoom right in. Look at this one. Where are we? Right in the middle. See the 2 transistors? Clipped together with a little clip. I'd love to know if I can buy those little clips. Because I've got a project here and there which I need to do that. Basically what they're doing is they're thermally coupling those 2 transistors together, so as the temperature changes and drifts around, these things will maintain an equal temperature to give them a better match. There'll be like a little match pair of transistors there. Clip them together and then they don't drift separately as they, you know, it's subject to separate temperatures. But yeah, that's a cool little thing. We got our CRT stuffs there underneath this big can and just here. I'll zoom out a little bit further. There we go. And if I turn it back onto the top, under this can, or under this lid, is where the power supply is. So we're going to have to check for reefer capacitors and replace any of those. Alright. I can see kind of handprints on here as well. Someone's definitely been inside. What do we got? Power supply section. That looks similar to the 2465s, 2467s. They got the 2 big capacitors sitting under here. The usual thing. Check this for voltage. You poke your probes through the 3 little holes here. Little schematic there. So you put in probe here, and then across the middle, and then from here across the outside, the 2 outside ones. And that'll tell you if your big capacitors inside here are discharged. These capacitors are looking a bit old school, but they're not busted. But they might be worth replacing. Generally, this board here is where the most attention is for capacitor replacements. So I'll pull this one out and we'll have a look inside. What else have we got in there? No option boards or anything inside. There's no GPIB. There's no rear 10 megahertz reference input. There's no power supply output for probes. You see on the back here, those 2 holes there, 1 and 2, they correspond with these 2 knockouts. You can see 1 there and 1 there. That's for options. So you can have like a 10 megahertz input and a some sort of sync output, or I can't remember exactly what it is. One of my 2467B, the scope I've got is it's actually got 2 outputs there. They're 4-pin Nemo connectors, which are used for power supply for powered probes, and they actually connect through from here to these 2 little 4-pin jacks just here and here. And yeah, so that's a pretty easy mod to do if you can get your hands on some 4-pin Nemo connectors. You can wire that in and connect them into here, and that will give you probe power if you need that. Alright, so here's the power supply module. It's 2 circuit boards held together with these clips and some screws and stuff. And it's got pins passing through in various locations to connect the 2 boards together. So it looks like here we've got 2 reefers straight up, looking a bit worse for wear. I get a good shot of the side there. You can see it's all cracked open. So they'll be summarily replaced straight up. Also, I noticed there's one under the shield about here, just underneath in there. And there's one more peeking just out there. You can just see it there. So there's 2 small ones on this side, 2 large ones on this side, and they'll be replaced with nice new capacitors. What are these? X-class capacitors, those ones. And these ones I have to check. What's that? Maybe Y-class there. So we'll replace those with the equivalent rated capacitors. Make sure you don't just put any capacitor in. They've got to be X-class or Y-class, depending if they're across the mains or from mains to earth. And just if it says X on it, replace it with an X. If it says Y, replace it with a Y. That sort of a thing. So just make sure you use the correct capacitors for safety. These capacitors are looking a little bit old school. I don't know how they actually are performing. Nichicons, the green ones are Nichicons, so they're a good brand. The silver ones, I'm not actually sure what they are. There's not really a brand on there. 672D, okay, they're probably Vichys. Those silver two there. And we've got another couple capacitors around the place. There's some metal film, sorry, not metal film, carbon composite resistors. So I might lift up one leg of one or two of those and just check they haven't drifted. They tend to drift high over time. We've got a bunch more capacitors, or this looks like the output capacitance, the output filtering capacitors. So they're all like, they're Vichys and whatnot. And this one here, I believe it's this one. On here it's 100 microfarad. That's got to be replaced with a 100 microfarad as close as possible, because that on the 2467s and 2465s regulates the 8 volt output, that 8 volt power supply. If you change that, you're going to change that 8 volts and then the unit's not going to work. So that one is, I believe it's this one. It's one of these two, but I think it's that one is the critical one. It has to be the same value. Voltage isn't so critical, but the capacitance is. Here's our two big stonkers that you poke through the top to test. And so I'll test those, make sure they're good. They're Spragues, so they're probably going to be okay. And there's our fan motor. So that's turning all right. So I think the fan noise I heard was just the fact that the blades were loose. So I'll make sure I reattach those fan blades properly. It's like almost like a squirrel cage fan. And so that shouldn't be rattling around anymore. I'm not going to try and open the fan motor. It does spin freely. If I try to open it, it looks like it's been crimped over, and it's got plastic and stuff, so I don't want to go and crack things and damage things. So yeah, I'll do some research if I can like drop a little drop of oil in there or something. I'm not sure yet, so I'll figure that out later. One note before I get started: if you're working on one of these and you're trying to figure out how to get these clips off without breaking them, it's pretty easy. You need some point nose pliers. And you'll see inside there's some little like fingers, or maybe you can see it in there, right down in there. You've got to go into the little gaps inside and give them a gentle squeeze and they'll come straight off. So if I put that through, gentle squeeze, it comes straight off. You can see there how it's set up. Yeah, like that. So you just gently squeeze and it'll release, and then you can take them off. And do the same to put them back in. Really gently squeeze. Don't just like push them on, because you'll break these little bits inside here. So you just got to sit it in place and give it some light downward pressure, and then squeeze it just enough that it just clips into place, and then you're good to go. Easy peasy. So I've replaced all the reefers on here, 2 of them on this side, and there was actually 3 under this can here, this lid. So I've replaced those. That's all good. Brand new capacitors. I've tested these Spragues inside this plastic former, and they're good as well. I was able to lift one leg on each side here, like there's 2 there, one for each cap, and then you can clip on underneath in here. There's some bare wires, and I didn't test those at the rated voltage because they're 200 volts, but on the old HP Boat Anchor LCZ tester, they tested okay. And I also pulled out one of each type that I found around the place of the smaller capacitors, and tested those, and they all test perfect. I tested them at their rated voltage as well, because I can go up to 40 volts. So there's what are these? These ones here are 40 volts. These ones here are 25 volts, the green ones, and they all test perfect. Like these ones, they're Vichy Spragues, and they're testing better than the data sheet specifies, so they're good to stay in. I have to source a few resistors. There's 2 0.1 ohm resistors here, and this one here is a, 82 kilo ohm, I think. So I have to replace that, because these have drifted. There's one just here, a 3.9 ohm, and I did have one of those in my spare stock as part, so that's been put in there. I'll just grab a few more resistors and stick them in, and that's ready to go back in. So also I found the problem with the fan noise. I had to repair this fan, because this is the motor here. It's inside the plastic holder. It's some sort of Siemens fan. Sometimes they come up online. You can find them on eBay occasionally, but this one's good, so I don't have to open up. There is a way you can open up and unwind the windings and replace the bearings and put it back together and stuff, but I'm not going to do that because mine's feeling pretty good. But what happened was, if I take this apart, the collet had broken. So that's the collet there. What happens is that goes into the hole here, which is strengthened by this aluminium ring, so it won't break out. And as it gets pulled in by the screw which goes through that hole, the collet kind of is in pieces and it grips in, kind of like on the end of your Dremel or on the propeller kind of holder on your model aircraft or your drone. So as it pulls in, you might be able to see the shape. Yeah, there you go, you can see the shape there. As it pulls in, those 4 pieces squish in and grip onto the shaft. Now you can see there's a bit of a seam line just there. This one had broken. They do break if you don't undo them correctly. There's a certain sequence you have to undo them. If you turn the screw the wrong way, it's going to just snap it. So this may have been played with. But yeah, so what I've done is I found that break was right at the end of the brass insert. There's a little brass threaded insert inside there. You might be able to see it poking out a little bit. If I hold it right there, you can see it shining there, the brass. And that's a number 4-40 thread. So I've got a screw, a 4-40 screw. I drilled a 2mm hole into the bottom part of this collet, which is all plastic. And I screwed this 4-40 screw, which I cut the head off, made a little bit of threaded rod, screwed it in with some super glue, and then this top piece with the brass piece, I put a bit of super glue and screw that on as well. So I've basically joined this collet back together with the threaded rod going all the way right to where the slots start. And that's nice and strong. And when that goes in there, I've got a nut that goes on the top. And if I tighten that nut up, that nut then pulls a collet in to the fan kind of section there with that ring. So that tightens down as I tighten this nut up. So that goes on there. Oh, I've tightened it too much. That goes on there like that, and then it will be nice and fanning again. It's a little bit. You can see that the nut there wobbles around a bit. I didn't get it perfectly straight, but it does pull. The whole thing pulls on straight, so it's not wobbling around too much at all. I think that'll work quite well. So that can go back on once that goes in, and that means our fan's working, which means we won't overheat our chips, which hopefully means a long productive life. So I'll get those resistors replaced, and we're well on our way to getting this thing fired up to see how it runs. Alright, I've got it all back together. No missing screws, no leftover parts, no leftover screws, which is fantastic. I've got it all cleaned up. I cleaned up the whole face. I took all of this panel off and everything. It's pretty easy to do, just a few screws here and there. Polished up all the BNC connectors so they're nice and shiny. Did the same on the BNC connectors at the back, and the back panel's been taken off and cleaned and everything. The enclosure came up real nice with just some Windex. Just a window cleaner. Wipe it on, and then a bit of washing detergent and whatnot in the sink just to wash it off with some water. Of course, don't do it while it's all together. Take the case off before you wash it. Don't submerge the thing in water. And what else have we done? I put some rear feet on the back, because the old ones, as I showed before, were all basically destroyed. That was probably the most expensive part of the thing. This cost me 2,200 yen for the whole unit, and those rear bumpers cost about the same, shipping from Q Service I believe they're in Greece. No affiliations. I paid full price for them, just a happy customer. I've used them a few times, so thumbs up to them. And yeah, we fixed the little pot in here. I've got a little knob here from my stock of parts, so that's all complete. We replaced the capacitors, the X and Y class capacitors in the power supply, those dirty reefers that always fail. Make sure you do that in your equipment too. Any equipment, just check it out and make sure there's none of those reefers, because they are a bad news. Those resistors that have drifted a bit, those carbon composites, have been replaced with metal film resistors. And what else? We fixed that fan as well. So we're pretty much all ready to turn it on and see what happens. So I've got this set, I think I've got this set right for a 1 kilohertz 1 volt peak to peak signal through my my magic cable here. So I'll turn a few of the lights off just so we can see the screen a bit better, just so I don't have to crank it up and burn the phosphors. And let's turn it on, see what happens, and then we'll plug in the signal. A few lights flashing here. It does a boot up sequence and whatnot, so it does take a few seconds to turn on. It does a self test and whatnot, and we have a trace. We have it. The screen's doing the thing. Fantastic. So let's plug it in, see what happens here. Oh yes! Oh yes, it's working. That's nice and crisp too. A little bit blurry in it. Let's have a look at the focus. Yeah, I might have to just tweak the settings for the CRT inside, because it is a little bit blurry on the top compared to the bottom for the not the trace, but the information display, or whatever they call that, the readout display. That's what it says down there. So yeah, that's nothing though. That's not a problem for now. So that is good. So I've got that set to 0.2 volts per division. I'll turn that up a bit. That might, I don't know if that turning up the intensity of the scale helps. But we've got 1, 2 and a half. So that's 2, 4 plus half is 0.1 volt. So that's 0.5 down. And if we do the same up, 2, 4 plus 0.1, and that's 1 volt peak to peak. So that's fantastic. So if we go to 0.5 volts, that's 0.5 plus 0.5. Yep, no worries there at all. So that's working. Yeah. Fantastic. Let's try the other channels. So let's turn that one off and channel 2 on. Yeah. It's doing the thing. Nice. Channel 3. Now, these ones don't have inbuilt 50 ohm terminations. Only channel 1 and channel 2 do. This function generator I'm using, it requires a 50 ohm termination to output the correct voltage. I've got it set to 1 volt peak to peak on the function generator, but that is only valid with a terminator. So I've got an inline terminator here. Nice HP 1 watt jobby. So if you put that one in there, bump on the knobs. And that is 1 volt peak to peak, because we've got the button in here for 0.5 volt per division. So that's reading correct. Awesome. So let's turn that off and turn on channel 4. And I've got the same settings, so that should be 2 positions, or 2 divisions. That is perfect. Awesome. Hang on, I'm going to just try a different waveform. Square wave. Nice. Let's head back to channel 1. So there's our square wave. Let's try triangle. Boom! Nice, sharp triangle wave. Look at that. Beautiful. Fantastic. Well, 2 enthusiastic thumbs up. I got a 2445 working for under 50 bucks. Not a bad score. Alright, I hope you found that somewhat interesting, and maybe even a bit informative. Remember, check your reefer capacitors in your equipment, because they will pop one day. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And yeah, hope you enjoyed that. Hit the like and subscribe button, and we'll see you in the next one.